welcome to the REDX Podcast. I am Hannah Rabé. Thanks for joining us. Today we have a special guest on with us, Katie Day from Houston. Move me to Texas. Katie is a realtor that started her background in multifamily and then moved into residential. So I'm super excited to have her on with us today so that we can talk through leading a team and what that looks like, her background, and kind of some takeaways on her journey. She's been very authentic on social, so I'm excited to hear the authenticity come out today in our conversation. Thank you for joining us today. I know you're busy, so I'm grateful for your time.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right. Teams is always one of our biggest questions. So I'm super excited to talk about like kind of cutting through the hype of it all and talking about building a team that really can last. I think you're a great example of that. So I'm grateful for your time to join us. So I'd first love to just talk about the early days for you. I know that you transitioned from multifamily property management into residential real estate. Can you take us through kind of that journey for you, your background, maybe the initial in real estate, and then what led you to residential real estate specifically?
Yeah. So when I graduated from college, I got into property management, multifamily and apartment property management. And I kind of worked my way up the program and company I started with. They kind of brought you in and you did leasing, but they showed you how to run a property and run payroll and do budgeting and hire vendors and stuff like that. And so I started managing properties at a pretty young age, which gave me a lot of experience, like business wise. And so I did that for a while. And then in rising up through the ranks and moving to different companies and stuff like that, I eventually got to a position or a spot where there really wasn't any more growth. And the company that I was working for actually was merging with another company. And so I kind of saw the writing on the wall that like, okay, I might not have a position moving forward. So I ultimately ended up getting laid off. And so in that journey, I kind of like wanted to, just like every other person getting into real estate, like work for myself and kind of, be independent.
Yeah.
I was kind of over managing people and everything. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go be a realtor. So I worked on getting my license, got my license, luckily had a pretty good start because, in getting laid off from the company, like I had a year-end bonus and I had a severance. So I had a good like cushion to start of hey, like if this doesn't work out, at least I have my bills paid for a little bit.
I love that. Okay. So kind of forced into like, I want to stay in the industry. What are my options? Okay. So that took you into residential. And then what did that look like for you at first? Like how long did you ride solo before you were like, I'm ready to build a team?
So I got in full-time in 2017 and I worked on my own. My husband actually ended up getting his license and working in real estate as well, but like we didn't really work together. So we worked under the same brand and like, we both were on the Move Me to Texas website, but like we had all of our own clients and everything. And so we did that for a while. And then in 2018 was when we were both working way too much. I knew that we needed to do something different to be able to kind of scale and have lives again. So that's when we started the team and started having more agents and support staff and stuff like that join us.
I love that. So work-life balance really drove you to building a team. Tell me about was it from day one that you were like, I want to share my entire experience on social? I know you already had a following as an agent, but whenever you transitioned to team leader, walk me through what that looked like.
Yeah. I mean, so, I listened to a lot of different, coaches and leaders and things like that. And so like, I always, followed Tom Ferry, and one of his things was always like, one, that you need to be on video, but two, that you should always kind of share all of your knowledge and expertise. And I think he's a great example of like, they have a massive coaching business, right? Like Tom Ferry is one of the best coaches in the industry, but like you can find almost everything that you need to know for free on his YouTube and on his website and when he speaks, right? And so I kind of took that mindset from real estate, both as an agent and as a team lead. Like, okay, if I just give everything away for free and I can show consumers how to do this on their own or real estate agents how to do this on their own, like when it comes to finding an agent or finding a team, like, perhaps then they will come to me because they know kind of how we work and they know what we do.
Yeah. I love the transparency. Okay. So going with that thought, so, everyone's huge, start a team, scale faster, work less, which is some of what obviously you guys were looking for. You were looking for that work-life balance. But can we talk about the reality of all of that? So walk me through like what you guys faced as far as hiring and retention and training. Like what were your systems that you had to put in place? Anything like that you feel is super valuable for people to know. And then we can also kind of segue with that into like, how did you know when it was time to hire certain positions to support you guys?
Yeah. So first of all, I kind of did it all wrong. And so when I speak from experience, like I think a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I'm definitely smarter than that. Like you hear the advice on like how to do things. You're like, oh, well, like Hannah, I'm smarter than that. So I'm just going to do it my way. Yeah. Right. And like, then you do it your way and then it's not the right way. And so that was me, right? I thought I was smarter than everyone else. So I think that like the math of starting a team is very simple, right? Like you're like, oh, okay, well, like if I hire 10 agents and they sell 10 homes a year, then, an average commission is this, and, I'll make an extra $1 million a year. This is amazing, right? But like, you don't realize all of the time that goes into, creating opportunity for them, figuring out how to do things, what that looks like, all of these things, right? To, ultimately actually start that team and then be successful. Right. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. So I guess where do you want to get started?
I'd love to talk about hiring. That's one of our main questions, how do you hire? What does that look like? Who are you hiring? Are you hiring local? Are you hiring VAs to support? Yeah. Do you have ISAs? All through that, I would love to dig a little bit.
So my initial first hire was an agent because like I was very busy with business. And so I was like, okay, like I don't need an admin. Like everyone's telling me I need an admin. I'm just going to hire an agent and they can take some of my business. I ended up giving them a lot of my business, but like that was my main source of income. And so when you're cutting that income, whether it's taking off 25% or 50% or whatever that is, like you've got to have more income coming in to make that up. And I didn't have that. Right. I think today, if I were to start over, my first hire would probably be a VA to be able to start taking some administrative stuff off my plate. Cause like, even when I hired my first agent, like I was still doing all of the TC work. So like, not only was I doing all the TC work and paying this agent on my team, at the time, 75% per deal, I was taking a huge haircut. And not actually getting that much time back because I was still doing most of the work and training her how to do it. So like, it was just a mess. I was not smarter. I did not do it well compared to everyone else. So if I were to redo it today again, I would hire a VA and I would start to create kind of, hey, this is how we do things, SOPs or, action plans or kind of like the rules of engagement for the team. Right. So when you think of SOPs, like, most people don't do them in enough detail. And so, when you think about something that you do in your business, like, if it's an open house, right? Like how many directional signs do you put out? Where do they start? How do you map that out? When you get into the house, turning on all the lights and opening the blinds, like that much detail.
The details.
Yeah. And so like with a VA, I think that it's very easy for me to say, hey, like Hannah, let's hop in a Zoom room. I'm just going to do the thing. And like, you're going to watch me once. And then the second time I'm going to, tell you exactly what I'm doing and like have them, you record it all, but like have them write everything down and then re-review it and continue to add to it. But that would be kind of the basis, because then like as you hire agents and as you hire in-person admin support and as you hire more people to the team, like you have at least a baseline of, hey, here's how we do things so that you have standards for them to abide by. Because often when you're starting a team and you're hiring agents, you have them doing things and you think that just they inherently have this knowledge and skill, and like generally they don't. Right. Yeah. And so if you're able to provide them with a list of exactly how you do things, it's the ability for them to then actually do it the right way or the way that you want it to be done is way easier to actually happen.
Yeah. And the ability, just internally here, we do all of that. And so the ability to add the details and then highlight, like where your core values come into play at some of those pieces, or, it highlights your culture in certain ways. Let's segue into that. Let's talk about that. Like what are deal breakers when you're hiring? and firing. Like we have core values here that like, it's not who we want to be, it's who our team is. It's what we exhibit. What are some of the core values that you look for in people as you're hiring? And then culturally, is there a good fit that you're looking for? Or are you just more, this is our culture, is this a good fit for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a two-way street. I always tell agents when they're interviewing for a brokerage or a team, like it's so different than when you go interview for a W-2 job. Because like when you're interviewing for a W-2 job, like you're trying to prove yourself to the company. And I think like as an independent contractor, whether you're, interviewing for a team or you're interviewing brokerages, like it's a two-way street. Like it needs to be a good fit for you just as much as it is for me. And so for me, when I'm looking to hire agents to the team, like they need to be a culture fit. But before that, they just like need to be a good person. Right. And so, some of the core values of like integrity and, being hardworking and constantly looking for improvement and learning and growing and stuff like that, like is kind of the baseline. But then it's like, do you mesh with the culture that already exists? So, generally we'll do kind of, like a Zoom interview, phone interview, in person. And then we'll do where you come to either a team event or like a team meeting. Because I think everyone for the most part interviews well. But then when you get people into social situations, it's interesting to see, like, do people immediately go up and like go to shake your hand? Like, hey, Hannah, I'm Katie. What's going on? It's really nice to meet you. Like, I'm checking out the team today. Or do they like sit in the corner and not speak to anyone? So kind of seeing how they interact with people and then getting everyone's kind of gut check, I think is really important, especially if you're in growth mode, especially with smaller teams too. Like we have 7 agents on the team right now. And so I think that if you're at 50 and you're going to 150, it may be a little bit different. But if you're just starting out, having a tight-knit culture is important in my mind.
Agreed. I love that. Trying to think which way I want to segue. That brought up a few thoughts in my mind. So let's talk though about, so we talked about SOPs and, how that naturally is a good guide and baseline for new agents coming on the team. Do you have a structure for training or mentorship, or is that just you as the team leader? What does that look like? How do you continue to develop agents as they join and then as they stay on with you?
Yeah. So as far as the joining piece, we try to onboard in groups. So going back to the mistakes, back in like 2019, 2020, in 2019, we brought on 4 different agents at different times throughout the year. And like, I think only one of them worked out. And so that means I went through like the same training and the same information 4 times, and only one person actually ended up staying, right? So some people, it was like that they weren't a good culture fit long term. Some people like just weren't, they didn't necessarily need to or want to work as hard as kind of we needed them to. And so like all of us on the team, we only take full-time agents. Like, so there's just like, there was just a different level of kind of what they wanted and what we wanted. And so I realized going into 2020 that it was important to be a little bit more efficient with time. And so like we onboard in groups. And so, if we onboard 5 people at once or 3 people at once, or just they go through the training program, because we offer it to agents at our brokerage as well, of like, hey, if you're a new agent and you want some more training, you can do this training program. It's 3 weeks. We go over everything like sales, marketing, ops for the business, and write a business plan and write a marketing plan and kind of give you a baseline foundation for your business. Then, obviously the people that we want to potentially be on the team, at the end of the 3 weeks we meet and we say like, hey, is this a good fit? Because like if it's too much for you to do that for 3 weeks, like then it's probably not going to be a good long-term fit, but like at least, and we go into it with like no expectation, right? Like at least, hey, now you have a better foundation for training, and like you can still do open houses for us if you want. And like, we're here as a resource, but like, being on the team full-time probably isn't the move. And so that's been kind of the what grew out of, me doing training and it not working out. As far as for people on the team, I always tell people that we're a pretty high accountability team. So when you look at teams in the industry, there are just so many different definitions, or, when you actually put it into practice, there's so many different ways in which people are teams. Sometimes it's just like, Hannah, you and I are like, oh, hey, we're a team because we both have the same domain and we both brand under the same brand, and that's it. Like we don't meet, we don't help each other with anything, but like we're just under the same umbrella. And then, there's everything in between, but like we're a high accountability team. So we have like daily huddles every morning at 8:30 where we hop on, we do a quick little like motivational quick check-in. Maybe it's a win for the day. Maybe it's, what you're committed to for the week. Maybe it's just something that you're focused on for the day kind of thing. And then we have a weekly team meeting. Some of them are on Zoom, some are in person. We do weekly role play. So we'll do where we go over different scenarios and different trainings and kind of, especially with all the changes the industry has seen over the past year and a half, 2 years, we go over, different scripting or different like, hey, this came up and like, I know I didn't handle it well. How would you guys handle it type situations, objections, stuff like that. And then just like weekly training as well. So a lot more kind of togetherness via Zoom and on the phone than other teams, may have. But it kind of all stemmed from like everything we do now is because like we didn't in the beginning and know that it's important to have.
Yeah, I love those pieces of culture. We have a lot of that in place that you just described here at REDX. I think that unity that comes out of a regular huddle. We do a Monday huddle, but we check in throughout the week. I think that, and then you get, like you said, little wins or whatever, whether those are personal or in the office, that connection to each other, I think is really important for culture and what grows there, supporting each other and fostering those relationships. So I love that. I don't think we see enough of that in teams. But like you said, there's so many different models. It's hard to nail down exactly what happens in some teams. Okay. I do want to talk about kind of what metrics matter to you with your team. And then kind of let's talk about growth, like quick growth, slow growth. I know you experienced growth, which is what led you into building a team. And then you kind of obviously slowed down a little bit as you hired first an agent to work for you and you gave away some of your business. Being in production, because obviously there's some models where team leaders are not in production or in production. Can you talk us through kind of what that looks like growth wise, and then what metrics out of your growth really you've learned are the most important to you?
Yeah. So as far as metrics, I'll start there. I think that a lot of times people just focus on contracts, right? Like, oh, we've closed this much this year. And so I think for high production teams or very experienced teams, like that's fine, right? Like you know that like everyone's doing what they should be doing and like we're good to go and we'll sell 5 homes a month or 10 homes or 50 homes or whatever it is per month. And like, as long as we're on that track, I'm cool. But those are like kind of lagging indicators, right? And so like we like to look at the things like the activities that you can control. So we always look at calls, conversations, and appointments. Okay. And then we look at what we put under contract and really kind of where and then obviously closings, but like you can control how many deals to some extent, how many deals you put under contract, but sometimes you can't always control what happens once they go under contract. So whether that's like the crazy father or uncle comes in, it's like, you can't buy this house. Like, okay, we'll find another one, or, things terminate or whatever it may be, but like calls lead to conversations lead to appointments lead to, generally, deals going under contract. And then hopefully those contracts lead to closings. But like, I like focusing kind of on the front half because like if someone's making 1,000 phone calls, but they're talking to no one, they're probably not calling at the right time of day. If they're talking to 1,000 people, but aren't creating any appointments, they're probably not saying the right thing. If they have the appointments, but those aren't leading to contracts, like sometimes it's as simple as like, you're just not asking them if they want to put in an offer or asking them like what they thought of the properties they saw. Right. And then again, there's like obviously coaching around what, if you have contracts that are happening, but then everyone's terminating, like maybe you're not properly coaching the client prior to them going under contract of what the inspection process looks like and how you can kind of navigate that. And so when we look at those things and kind of the relationships between each one of those stages, we're able to kind of train to the gaps or see like, okay, if Hannah specifically is going on tons of appointments, but no one seems to be putting in any offers, like we'll go, hey, let me head out with you and go on your next tours or like, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. We talked about growth for a second. Anything specific on growth you want to call out? Any long-term wins that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that starting a team isn't necessarily for everyone. I think that as far as growth, most people start a team because they get to a point in their business where they have too much business or they're just not able to service any more clients. So they hire on agents to do deals with them and for them, right? So growth can sometimes like look a little bit different. And a model that I'm seeing emerge a lot more now is like the micro team, right? And so if I'm a producing agent, and I have too much business, it's hiring on a showing partner or showing partners to be able to help with that, where I'm still doing consults and taking the deal from contract to close, but I have an agent or agents that are helping with showings kind of thing. And so we're seeing that more and more happen. And so I think as far as growth goes, like I know for me, when I gave away a large percentage of each deal to an agent, because I thought that was like the kind thing to do. Like, I shouldn't have done that one, but I thought that was the right solution. And like, I think that like, you just really need to know kind of what your numbers are and how much money you do have to give away. Cause like that first quarter we had a team was like the least amount of money I made in real estate ever. Like ever, even when like I first got into real estate, like it was the least amount of money I ever made in real estate. It was like when I started a team. So like, I think that before kind of diving into like having a team or, scaling your business, like you need to make sure that that's like the path you want to go on. Cause now I love working with agents, both, with my team and just in general, and like helping them to achieve things like that they didn't know or realize they could achieve. But like not everyone likes to do that. And so just understanding kind of like what you like to do, I think is important before diving into like starting a team.
Sweet. Let's pivot for a second. Let's talk about tech.
Yeah.
What tech do you ride or die with? What do you think is imperative for a solo agent and a team? And then let's talk about specifically for you as a team leader, like hardcore, my team uses this. We wouldn't produce the way we do without it.
Okay. So as far as tech, I think the baseline answer for me would probably be like a CRM is the baseline. Everything we do gets plugged into it. So an example, REDX, we use REDX for like circle prospecting around listings and things like that, but like we input all of that data into our CRM, right? And we will make calls, with REDX and everything, but like everything gets logged in our CRM so that we can track all of our stuff. And so I think the CRM is kind of the baseline, because most CRMs have the capabilities to be able to send emails and make calls and text and do all the things. And so like, it's in our team agreement that like all communication has to be in the CRM. So that's the baseline thing. I think like, as far as things today that are like hot topics, like obviously like we use a ton of AI. And so we've been using like ChatGPT a lot, and I've been building out, but where I think it's a little bit different is I've been building out like custom GPTs for the team. So whether that's property descriptions, whether that's like different hooks for videos, for social media, whether that is to build case studies for, a buyer wanting to put in an offer, or a seller when we're going on a listing appointment, to like help to take data and be like, historically, when's the best time to sell, or, what do days on market look like, or different things that like, you'd have to like pour over every single sale for the past 5 years, and like your eyes, you're cross-eyed, trying to build that kind of stuff out. So it's not just like, hey, we're throwing spaghetti at a wall, but here's like specific tasks you can use AI for, and building those out for the team. But I think that like the one thing that's a non-negotiable, whether you're a solo agent or you're running a team, but especially if you're running a team, is a CRM, right? Like you have to have some sort of centralized place for everything to go from. And these days with like APIs and Zapier and all of these different automations, like you can pretty much have anything read to anything, right? Yeah. So like if you enter this thing into this place, like it can like go into the cloud and then pop out in your CRM. So like there's really no excuse to not have one. But like, especially if you're running a team and realistically, like teams do have turnover, like you need to have everything in a centralized place.
Any specific CRMs that you're like, this scaled with me better than others that you'd like to call out?
Yeah, I mean, so we've been with Follow Up Boss for the past like 10 years.
Yeah.
So, I really like Follow Up Boss because everything can read to it. I would
Yeah.
say that the only downside of Follow Up Boss is that it doesn't have a website built in. So you have to go to a third party for a website. So that's like the only downfall. But like everything plugs in so well to Follow Up Boss. And generally speaking, when most companies do integrations with CRMs, like Follow Up Boss is normally the first one that they do it with. But with that being said, there are so many good CRMs out there.
Sure.
A ton of my agent partners, like they use Lofty. It really doesn't matter as long as it's something that, like, you are able to use and it fits your budget.
Yeah. Adoption. Okay. Let's see. Anything that you would like to call it about? We talked about AI briefly for a second. So anything that you're like, I'm hardcore human needs to do this versus tech?
So it's funny to me because I don't know if everyone else feels this way or even sees this, but like when like emails and like social posts, like you can tell that it's AI.
100%.
I'm glad you agree with me, but like, it's
the M dash versus the N dash. Like there's so many indicators.
Well, and like what annoys me is like I actually, like, prior to realizing like how much chat use the M dash, like I use it because like in Apple and in like if you do like that, like it makes those, right? And so it's like now I have to delete those out to make it look like I'm human, which is like frustrating. But I think that with I don't even remember your original question, but I'll just give you a statement. I think that with like the rise of AI, my goal with using AI and different tools is like to be able to provide a better human experience with it and to better leverage my time with it, right? And so I think that there are a lot of efficiencies that come from AI, but every single time I go over something with the team, like we've been doing case studies recently, right? For listing appointments of like, hey, here's all of this historical data from the neighborhood and the zip code and the this, and like give me micro versus macro trends compared to Houston, and like just like crazy, like give me all the things so that I can go in and be like, hey, so this is what's happening, and this is months of inventory, this is days of market, blah, 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 blah. And like you'd have to pull all of that individually on its own and then like see what correlations you can find. And like AI can do that very quickly, but like I've also found that like I've put in stuff into data into ChatGPT, and it's like, oh, the days on market's 37, and I like look at the PDF, I'm like, no, it's 7, and it's like, oh, my mistake, you're right, it's 7. And so I think that if we rely on AI too much and just take it for fact and don't fact check it, like you can look really dumb. And so
For sure.
I would just implore anyone that's using it to just like pause for a second and just make sure that what you're using, you don't use it as fact, and you always fact check it and just make sure that you're double checking before hitting send, kind of thing.
Definitely. Love that. Okay. I think we're at wrap up. So I would love to hear any advice that you're like, I give this every time I'm on stage. Like, this is what I shout out, especially related to teams. And then, anything you would like to give as a resource, if you want to shout out any resources that you feel people should be leveraging, whether that is a tech or that's just a book you've read, whatever you want to share. I would love to hear your feedback on just your journey, and this is what I do to motivate me and keep myself centered in this crazy world of real estate.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the biggest thing for me, as far as just advice in general, like if you're like, what do you say every single time, when everyone's like, what's your closing thought? For me, it's always consistency. That, like, I strive to be the most consistent person, and often that's boring. That's doing the boring stuff. But like whatever that is that you are choosing as kind of your baseline, just making sure that you show up and do that every single day. So much of this business isn't that hard. It's just showing up even when it's boring and it sucks. And so doing that and being consistent, I think, will get you a lot farther than the shiny objects and things like that. As far as advice for team leaders or people that are looking to start a team, I define integrity as like doing what you say you are going to do when you say you're going to do it. And so I know that I have not always done that. And I know that with like being a team lead, I often will have ideas or have things or ask you to do something. And then I kind of forget like, oh, I asked Hannah to do this. And like, you're just like, okay, I did this entire project. And like, what's the deal here? And so I, have a marketing admin that does a ton of stuff for me, but I'm like, hey, you need to keep track of all of these projects and then like bring them back to me and be like, why haven't you done this? Right? Like I'm going to have the ideas and I'm going to brain dump on you and you need to hold me accountable to those. And so like you either need to hire the people that are going to do that.
Yeah.
But even if it's as simple as like, hey, we're going to do this by this date, like putting things in your calendar to say like, oh, this was the deadline, so I need to follow back up with Hannah to make sure it's done kind of thing. And have integrity to your team, because I think nothing's more frustrating, because I've worked for people like this. Nothing's more frustrating than working for a leader or a manager or, whatever you want to call them, that like always has the ideas but never follows through, and doesn't hold people accountable to the things that they said that they were going to. So I think that's really big. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me for like leading a team and being a good leader is just like sticking to what you said you were going to do.
I love that. It all correlated, everything you just said about, showing up and staying consistent and being for them who you've said you're going to be. So I love that. Katie, thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome. We got some great content today, so I'm super excited to share this and for it to go out. So I'd love to have you back on at some point to talk AI. So hopefully we'll see Katie again in the future. Thanks so much for joining us.